Hi, this is Rosalyn Kahn with Community of Unity, and today I have with me Chistine Hotchiss, and I want to tell you the story about how life goes and how the two of us came to be connected. You know, in this pandemic, so many of us have extra time on our hand that we find ourselves, as they say, tooling through Facebook and finding interesting stories. When I came across her story the very first time, she was a picture on a rock looking over, and she said how someone had passed. And I'd commented my sorrow and how sorry I was to hear about this. And I want to say this was a while ago, maybe several years before. And so when I came back and I hit upon this post, something inside of me said, I want to connect with this lady. And normally when I connect with people I want to interview, it's a 10-minute conversation and we're done and finished. But when the two of us began talking, it was like we were best friends. I have a special place in my heart, and I don't know where it comes from, of people who've left our world and are no longer with us. But this lady has a really interesting story. So let me introduce Chistine Hotchiss and tell us about your story. Okay, so here we are. Welcome back. We were just playing this game of the ABCs of how we can help ourselves overcome from stress. We just finished with the C's. And first was the Austin, B was be the best that you can be, and C was the colors of the rainbow always offers us brightness. So I recall you were saying that when you went back from that period of time, that there were lessons that you had learned. What was one of the other changes that you had made in your life? What was something else that had changed that came apart of from that time I sent you that post to where we are right now? What was one of the changes that you experienced?
How I see people, how I see people in the fact that not everyone's going to tell you that they're having a bad. I see people, how I see people in the fact that not everyone's going to tell you that they're having a bad day. They'll hide it with a smile, or someone's going through something very, very difficult and they don't know how or don't want anyone else to know. So I always treat people with that cliche, treat them as if they are you, because everyone has something that's going on and they're not going to tell you. You're not always going to know. So I treat everybody with respect.
You know, that's so important because, you know, I as a teacher in the college classroom, I always go around and I ask people about how they're doing and what's happening and what's going on. And you never know what the words you're going to get. And it's sometimes it's asking those questions. How are you doing? I really want to know. Or a student who was dropping my class this last semester and he said, you know, I've never had a teacher who's reached out to me in the way that you do, making sure that I was going to be okay. And, you know, I keep that on the back of my mind saying, yeah, I've got to record some lessons. And last night I went to sleep and I didn't record that lesson. Got to do that. Got to do that.
Yeah.
So tell me, you've done a lot of podcasts. Has there been a story that's kind of stood out above the rest that just really resonated with you that you said podcasts were the thing that you live the most about? Which one is the story you'll never forget?
You know what? Everyone has such a unique story. I can't say one because they are all so amazing and so inspiring and give such great hope for someone that you would think wouldn't be able to get back up through what they're going through, and yet they do. So I don't have one particular story that has been more than the other because every single story has made me realize how important people want to feel, how they may not even think that there's someone else out there that's traveling the same journey as they. And not every journey is exact and identical, but they're pretty darn close that you can get a better understanding just a little bit. Like, for instance, there's a lot of different cancers out there, but the cancer journey, if someone's going through chemo or if someone's going through some sort of treatments, or the loss of someone that's gone through cancer or a tragic, incident like myself, they're not identical, but everyone wants to, we've heard this cliche, everyone matters, not just one skin color, one language. And I recently interviewed someone and I said, if you close your eyes, there's no color. Everybody's the same. We all have the same desires to dream, to be loved, to be accepted, and to do what we want without judgment.
That is so beautiful. That is so true. There's a story that you shared with me, and I don't know the names of the people, but it was really interesting because I mentioned my role as a student, and there was one particular story that you mentioned of a kid who'd come home from college and he was
Um,
communicating with this person online, And he began in an innocent thing. And I always say, as a teacher, go out and research what you can find, and what you can find is true and false. And unfortunately, this kid was in contact with the person who helped him
Take his life.
take his life. And his mom said, as he was going back and looking at those, what surprised me the most about the story, and this is why I want to talk about it, is they would sit down and they'd have table conversations. They were close.
Hmm.
They communicated. And there's no one recipe or one formula for a person who takes their life, because you know there was this one part, and they went on the computer, but they'd come to dinner and they'd say they were okay, they'd say they were fine, they'd say everything was perfect. And so when we go back and we look at that situation, what advice can you give people to be on the lookout for?
You know, you said the word communication, and I am all about the communication. And as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, there are people that are hiding behind a mask or a smile or staying busy so they don't have to deal with the reality of what's really going on around them. And this particular story, I do remember very well. And I want to say there are signs, but what I'm learning is there really aren't any signs. I think that the only thing I can suggest is, as much as we say communication is important, how much are we really communicating without worrying about shame or being uncomfortable or feeling like an outcast? So when we ask, how are you doing? It's an automatic thing for people to say, oh, I'm fine, or have a great day. Does anyone really think about the things that they're saying to other people is the question. And if you really do care, as I say, if you really want to get to know someone, connect with their heart. And with this particular story you're talking about, it was a a teenage kid, a valedictorian at that. And when you see those achievements at that level, some people think that those individuals don't hurt, that they don't have troubles, they don't have pains, they don't have sorrows. And I think because society puts certain stigmas on things, that we have to uphold that, and then there comes a breaking point. And I think with this young man, there was that breaking point, that he didn't know how to talk and express his fear or his pain or his hurt. And then he went to a total stranger who was supposed to be someone he trusted, and turned to be someone who helped him achieve something that is horrific, and that is to take his own life. So I really want to stress communication without judgment and without fear of what you're going to say is going to be bad or someone's going to be offended. Share it, because it can save a life too.
Right, and it's just that so important thing about having those questions and those communication, that you really connect with people. I also remember that you were telling me recently about a special book that you were writing about a woman that you'd known for 10 years. Could you share the audience about that story and what that story is all about?
So a friend of mine, she's coming up on her 1 year, I call it an angel anniversary, when someone's passed away. And I met her 10 years ago going through some self-help stuff because I was going through some tough times in my life. And so we only knew each other through certain events we would see each other at. And then I also used to ride a motorcycle. So we were in the motorcycle community for a short period of time. And she was in a horrific accident that they didn't know if she was going to survive. Um, she did. She beat the odds, showed the doctors that she could live more than the infant type mindset and body that they thought she was going to have for the rest of her life, to where she actually was living a full life and back out riding her bike. She unfortunately, while she was going through these changes in her life, there was a book that she had written. I say unfortunately, I apologize, I said unfortunately, because she has passed away. But this book is more of like a ledger, a journal of events that I apparently didn't know were important to her, because those were parts of her life she missed out with having a coma. That I would go visit her in the hospital, and I had people on social media and groups that knew who she was sending cards. I would post it on this page that was through the hospital called I think it's called Caring Bridges, or Bridge Caring. I forget which one it is. I apologize. She was in control of that. I could post stuff. And so what she did when she got to a healthier state of mind of her living life, past what the doctors thought she was going to be able to do, is she took all of those comments that people wrote, the cards, she put them in a photo, and she was gonna she was gonna write that book about
Wow.
when there's no one there for you. And so as a, and I get emotional because it's
I'm gonna
hard.
I'm gonna call a
Um,
hold for here, and we're gonna come back in one quick second because that story of just putting someone's life together and remembering 'em is so special. I want our audience to hear about that. But let's just take a quick break, and we'll be right back.